Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Yes, this is a somewhat of a last minute stream. Um, right? Kind of, sort of, been kind of mulling this over for the past couple days. The idea. We're gonna kind of freestyle this one, although I do have clips that I want to play so that we can kind of frame this correctly. And the title is what it is, which is, what is downstream, or what's downstream from Black Men Ain't Ish, right? And so we'll just say the answer outright. Downstream from Black Men Ain't Ish is the degradation of black men and boys. Yes, even black boys, even innocent black boys. Because inherently those boys become men, right? Like we know that, right? Um, and if you assume, and if in your mind, the fathers, the men, the adults, right, the boys when they become adults ain't ish, then obviously those boys grow up to be men that are not ish either, right? um and I think that we have to emphasize that. So we're coming to this today, much of the reason because we had the conversation we had with FD Signifier a couple nights ago, and I want to stress this to the black men that would more, especially in academia, especially black men of note, that's rich black men, famous black men, um, preferably those of them that are more thoughtful and well spoken, who would tend to agree with Dr. Green Gorilla or Dr. T. Hassan Johnson or Dr. Ron O'Neill or Dr. Thunder, right, et cetera, Dr. Dunbar, but they fear the reprisal of the state, of white folks, of black women, of even black women in their own families and their friends circle. And so they say nothing when they watch and they hear certain quotes, certain, ideas, you know, some of the themes in the black community of black men ain't being ish, or black men need to step up at the lightest, right? The least offensive comments you will hear is, black men are lacking, and they need to step up and get on black women's level. That is misandry, but at the very lightest, right? And so I say to those black men, you can't ignore it, right? And thus we trust, exactly. Hashtag and thus we trust. What's going on, D Scott? Right? So to those black men who think they're above it, or they have their wife and kids and they're just gonna go bugger off somewhere into some white suburb and kind of hide out, or even worse yet, they are going to echo and regurgitate some of those talking points, Diallo, Dr. Jared Ball, right? um yeah, you can't run from this. And obviously it bothers you sometimes also when you hear this misandry, but you're so deathly afraid that you will be lumped in the box with, well, yours truly, that you say nothing, right? And my argument to you is, downstream from black men ain't ish is black boys ain't ish. Downstream from black boys and black men ain't ish are notable black women who at best use terms like intersectionality to hoard all of the gains, or as much of the gains of black people as humanly possible at the best, and at the worst actively are a hindrance to the upliftment of boys and men. So shout out to black men who watched as black women called into the Obama White House and threw a fit because of My Brother's Keeper, and they attempted and got in the way of My Brother's Keeper, which was a program, not even government sponsored program, to help boys and men that are disadvantaged, and not even exclusively black boys and men, right? I say to you, your silence is lightweight complicity, right? Your silence is lightweight complicity. You're complicit in the degradation of black men and boys at the hands of certain black women because you're deathly afraid of being called misogynist. You're deathly afraid of being called misogynist. You're deathly afraid of being called sexist. And so you say nothing, right? You say nothing. And so we're going to play this clip. We're going to play a couple of clips that further illustrate um, kind of what Mr. Z is speaking about. And so obviously this is a Steve Bannon quote, downstream from culture is downstream from politics, right? And we're emphasizing this, but instead of culture is downstream from politics, we're saying black men ain't downstream from black men ain't ish is black boys ain't ish, right? That's why it's not a far leap for the type of rhetoric that's been going on in the black community for a few decades, and then a Cynthia G popping up, and then a Chrissy popping up, right? From black men ain't ish, you get radical feminists that question whether they should abort black boys when they have them, right? You get a Princella with the political lesbianism. You get a literal radical feminist with the political lesbianism. You get a Cynthia G questioning whether we should abort black male babies. You get other divestors saying we should abort all black babies. You get a Chrissy saying, well, if you can afford a steak dinner, then maybe we shouldn't have your children, right? You have feminists who would like to quote unquote partner with a man, but they don't want to have children. Downstream from black men ain't ish are all of these other second and third order effects. So we'll pause right here and let's play this. Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, and good morning to all. Good morning. Good morning.
Ignore the truth, if you ignore the truth that exists, even in somewhat distasteful forms, in lower class art and pop art, then the art will win and your politics will lose. Andrew Breitbart understood this when he said that politics is downstream from culture. Actually, Shelley said something quite similar. He said, opposed to the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Plato in the Laws talks about a theatrocracy, which is what happens when people make their decisions based on what they see in the theater and what they can applaud at and what people use to pander to them. You may not like it, but art is a tremendously powerful tool. It is more powerful than political argument and reasoned argument for insinuating itself into the heart of people. And so the job of critics and the job of people who care about good politics and about preserving the republic have to have a strong stomach for paying attention to the stuff that maybe challenges their presumptions that can be brought into the system. Because if you're just excluded from the system, then it will tear the system apart. We talked about this with Buckeye and Euripides a little bit. You've got to find some way of seeing what the artists are telling you and then, incorporating that into your bigger vision of the world. Because of course, if the artists are telling you something true, but they don't really see like the whole picture and how people have to live in order to society, then you have to kind of find some middle ground and then balance what the artists are saying with your own, with firmness about, the good traditional values.
In other words, to all the black scholars, and I'm particularly speaking about black men, but also black women who are in allyship with us, Waiting to Excel and Color Purple and What's Love Got to Do with It, right? And Brewster's Place and all of these movies and music that expressly target black men as these terrorists of the black community. I'm pronouncing it like that for a reason. I don't want my channel to get flagged. As these antagonizers of black women, as these colorists and featurists and texturists on the level of Nazis, right? As these quote unquote unloyal, ungrateful men who, unlike white men and Latino men and Asian men, do not realize that all they are is a walking wallet, overglorified guard dog, and what they should be also is the best and greatest cheerleader. Downstream from the music and the movies and the articles, both in magazine and in paper, in newspaper, so in print. Downstream from that, downstream from black men ain't ish, you get the culture that shows that black men ain't ish. Or better yet, the other way around. Downstream from the culture that portrays black men as ain't being ish, once again, waiting to excel, right? Downstream from color purple, you get the politics that ignore your sons and your nephews and your cousins, your male cousins, as they get warehoused in prison. Because the masses of black women and even some black men think those black men and even sometimes black boys are deserving of that punishment, right? Oh yeah, sorry, Trill. And dildos, right? You are a sex toy that you're supposed to be here for her pleasure, right? Her express pleasure. So I say to the scholars and those that are part of media, whether that's more entertainment and pop media or that's quote unquote news media, I say you can no longer ignore the degradation of black men and boys at the hands of black women. Mark Lamont Hill, how long are you going to let Ebony K. Williams talk the way she does, speak the way she does? How many of you said nothing when Tiffany Cross said what she said? Black men need to get in line with behind black, yeah, black men need to get in line with behind black women, right? How many of you stood idly by and watched black men in Georgia get ripped to shreds because not even 25 or so percent that voted did not vote for Stacey Abrams? In other words, the vast majority of black men voted for Stacey Abrams, but the ones of them that did not, the entire black male contingent got pinned because of the black men that decided not to vote for Stacey Abrams. How many of you stood by and watched black women say and express sexist, misandrous views about black men and you said nothing? Downstream from the culture is the politics. And as this man said, your politics will be overrun and overcome if you think this kind of pop culture expression of black male degradation is nothing, right? Huh. Yeah. And many of our scholars think they're above it. They don't think you should have to speak about this. They think we're making too much of a deal out of this, right? To be honest, and I should express this to FD Signifier, much of the conversation coming out of black academia is just reiterating something that they heard or saw or expressed or saw expressed in the 1970s, which much of that language was stuff that people were regurgitating from scholars from the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. And so now that we are in the 21st century, these people think the dynamic between men and women, black men and black women, is some black men are oppressive. Come home. Where's my meatloaf? It's not on the table. Backhand your black. It's not gonna be your black wife because y'all are not married. Your black girlfriend, your black baby mama, right? Kick the dog. Say something homophobic to your son. Say something sexist to your daughter, right? Downstream from that type of imagery, once again, is the warehousing of black boys and men and the mostly silence from the black community, namely black women. It's actually asking to see more images of black men in horrendous positions, right? I'm saying and I'm asking to the black male scholars, do you really think you're above this? Right? See, when Dr. Jared Ball expressed a bit of like dismay, and so did Geechee, right? That Angela Davis pretty much did the, these black men tried to hold me down, these men tried to hold me down thing, and you could see they were annoyed by it. But I listen to Earn Your Liberation, not Earn Your Leisure, Earn Your Liberation. Y'all stay jabbing at men. Why y'all think the women ain't? Y'all stay jabbing at black men. Y'all stay jabbing at the quote unquote patriarchy. Why do you think the women won't? They do it more than you. As a matter of fact, the reason you're doing it is because they're doing it. Oops. Right? Exactly, Toya. We say that at the same time. Exactly. What did you think? Downstream from, you know, how Stella got her groove back and the sexist imagery in the beginning of the movie is how you get a Oprah. Oh, black men are secretly everywhere. Every corner you peek is a black man that's secretly gay, cheating on you secretly, right? And many of you said nothing. So why wouldn't black female scholars just continue down that road? Why wouldn't they? You get a BLM, you get a Black Lives Matter because the death of black men can be seen as horrendous in a vacuum. You got to tie how it's hurting black women somehow, and somehow hurting black LGBTQ women who actually want nothing to do with those men. And I'm not just speaking romantically, right? And so you get a Black Lives Matter that get to profit. Remember, 3 queer black women who get to profit off of the blood, the lives, and the memories of dead black men those women would have wanted nothing to do with if those men were alive. Right? And let's play the next clip. We'll pause right here. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
That's an interesting question because, in one sense, the obvious answer is yes. The culture determines the politics. I think that's the big equation, and that's one of the things that evangelical Christians had better think through very carefully, because I think one of the things that must have been learned from the 80s and the 90s is that if the culture moves in one direction and the politics moves in a different direction, the culture will overwhelm the politics. And culture will trump the politics. The culture produces the politics eventually. But I don't want to leave that the last thing said, because I think in an Augustinian worldview or in a biblical worldview, we got to understand that politics really is important, and politics does affect the culture. So we actually don't know an apolitical culture. So the culture that will determine the politics has itself been shaped in some sense by politics, at least as part of what has brought that culture into being. So I think the big answer is, of course, culture always determines the politics. The politics is indeed always downstream from the culture, but that culture itself has been at least affected and influenced, even shaped by political issues, personages, policies, and events. And you can't take those out of the equation either.
Huh. So if the culture goes this way and the politics goes that way, the culture eventually overruns the politics. Huh. FD signifier, did you hear that? Y'all keep on thinking you don't have to really address what the ladies are saying, portraying, and advocating for. All through their music, all through the movie. See, you kind of understand that when it comes to the men. That's why y'all make a big stink about men and boys and hip hop and imagery of women and hip hop and rap music. But when the women are saying it and doing it, all of a sudden we don't have that type of analysis anymore. Right? We don't have it anymore. All of a sudden our critical thinking skills go out the window. Our ability to piece these things together go out the window. We don't know how to play Tetris no more. Right? And then you get your black boys and men being warehoused in prison. You get your black boys and men dropping out of college, if even going. You get wait a minute, Z, are you gonna say it? A higher and higher self-deletion rate for your black boys and men. Something they weren't really known for doing just a couple of decades ago. Huh? Right? Downstream from ignoring, yes, white racist society portraying black men in a negative light, but they've always done that. Downstream from black women also wanting to see that. And then black men making excuses why it's okay. You know what you get downstream from black men ain't ish? You get a fictitious fictional character called Bigger Long, a black male slave hunter called Bigger Long, in a movie about Harriet Tubman. That's what you get downstream from ignoring years and decades of black men ain't ish rhetoric. You get black women shoehorning, or black LGBTQ men shoehorning a fictional character called Bigger Long into a docu movie, right? What they call it, edutainment movie about Harriet Tubman. And for those of you that ever saw the clip of the brothers that tried to say something, they were listening to, I can't remember who it was, speaking on a panel about the movie, and the brothers, stood up and made us think about it. And the black woman was saying, "Well, yeah, well, we have to speak about how essentially we're our own worst enemy." But when we're our own worst enemy, once again, it's almost always portrayed as black men being the enemy of black women. We our own worst enemy talk is almost always shown as black men being the worst enemy of other black men, or black men being the enemy of LGBTQ black people, or black heterosexual, well, that's heterosexual black men being the enemy of LGBTQ black people, and black men being the enemy of black women. See, downstream from black men ain't ish are articles like black men are the white supremacists of the black community. Docudrama, thank you, Tro. Docudrama, right? You got a docudrama like Harriet Tubman with the Bigger Long character, right? Because what we have are a whole lot of scholars and intellectuals and academics, whether there be black women allies or black men, who are deathly afraid of saying anything to tell other black male and other black women intellectuals, first of all, shut the hell up, you're sexist. Secondly, we have to tell these entertainers and these screenwriters and these black female culture critics and creators, these tastemakers, that what they're pushing is sexist, misandrous filth about black men. But many of you are either deathly afraid of actually being labeled, so you don't say anything, or you actually kind of agree with it, right? Yeah, you actually kind of agree with it, so you say nothing. Yep. If you want to know. So, black male scholars have a lot of, and especially black heterosexual scholars. Turian Rain, no, sorry, Turian Walker interviewed a LGBTQ brother. I don't know how long ago was this at this point, maybe 2 years ago at this point. And it was interesting listening to the brother talk. And then, you know, he even said it himself, like, he had to, he pretty much said, in the way at least I heard it, was like he had to come to the realization that he's a man. Yeah, he's same sex loving, but that he's a man, and he was regurgitating all of the misandrous rhetoric coming out of academia, black academia, and it hit him. Wait a minute, I'm talking about me, because many black LGBTQ men, they think they're in allyship with sexist, misandrous, homophobic, let's call a thing, black women, because a couple of people and their male cousins and their older brothers made them feel a certain way when they were younger. Right? And now right, Thebus. And now right, Storm Monroe. Stop it, Storm Monroe. We already know what you are, bro. Just come out. Right? Imagine being a man. Okay, yes, you're same sex loving. Imagine being a dark skinned black man and you having to come to the realization that you're a black man before you're a gay black man, before you're a same sex loving black man. Imagine having and mind you, you're an educated black man. This speaks to, we often talk about, and you hear Kim Foster speak about this, how you have to be socialized out of patriarchy because even the women are patriarchal. Kim Foster, what would you call this? This brother had to come to the epiphany. Wait a minute, I'm actually pushing misandry, and I'm a black man. Huh. Huh? Imagine that. Because when you hear Themis speak, and when you hear Storm Monroe speak and how they advocate, huh? What do you hear? Right? And I forgot the name of the dark skinned brother that Khadijah occasionally platforms on her channel. I forgot his name. And even Donovan from the Grapevine was another one. right? Donovan told you that when he started hanging around with his cousins, his male, heterosexual male cousins, he started to come to a realization, oh crap, they're really not that bad. And they don't talk about women like they're just pieces of meat. And they actually do question each other about, hey, bro, you've been with her for a little while. When are you going to get married? Huh? What you doing over there? You imagine? For those of you that ever heard Donovan, we would disagree with him, etc., etc. But y'all hear the way Donovan speaks, how intelligent he is, how educated he is. None of that mean anything when you've been socialized to be a misandrist and you're a black man. Yeah, Donovan's same sex loving, but you're still a black man. And all of that intelligence and all of that education and all of that knowledge means nothing because you've been socialized to be a misandrist. Right? So you have Donovan, you have the brother, and anybody remember his name? I do not remember his name. That Torian Walker interviewed. You have Themis, you have Storm Monroe, you have just a myriad of LGBTQ black men, right? If you just want to call them queer black men, who put their sexuality before their race, and then they decide to ally with sexist, misandrist black women and wage a culture war jihad against black men, right? Is he a dancer? You talking about the dancer that Torian Walker interviewed? Is he a dancer? I thought he was I remember I recall him saying he was working on his master's degree and whatever. He might be a dancer too. You know, these things aren't mutually exclusive. But yeah, but as imagine being a same thing with Donovan. Like I said, imagine being a black man and saying seriously, straight face, that you had to come to the realization that black men, heterosexual black men, aren't these. Yeah, man, you got to keep on racking up these O's and imagine that, right? And that's in Donovan's case, and then in the brother's case that Torian Walker interviewed. Imagine having to come to the realization that wait a minute, I sound misandrist. I'm a dark skinned black man intellectualizing misandry about black men, mainly heterosexual black men, but still black men. Imagine that. This is why I speak about swirlers and divestors. Because downstream from speaking about how horrible black men are, and the best thing you can do is jump on the first non black, probably white peen you get, is the politics. Is the politics concerning black men that oftentimes it's black women that are in these spaces. Huh? It's black women that are in these spaces. And more often than brothers like FD Signifier would like to admit to themselves, black women that have very misandrous views about black men, informed most oftentimes by pop culture, are in the spaces to advocate for quote unquote black people, that includes black men. And well, we can see from our politics over the past 4 and 5 decades, 6 decades, what that's looked like for black men, right? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, and let's play this one more again.
The truth, if you ignore the truth that exists, even in somewhat distasteful forms in lower class art, art will win and your politics will lose. Andrew Breitbart understood this when he said that politics is downstream from culture. Actually, Shelley said something quite similar. He said, opposed to the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Plato, in the Laws, talks about a theatrocracy, which is what happens when people make their decisions based on what they see in the theater and what they can applaud at and what people use to pander to them. You may not like it, but art is a tremendously powerful tool. It is more powerful than political argument, than reasoned argument, for insinuating itself into the heart of people. And so the job of critics and the job of people who care about good politics and about preserving the republic have to have a strong stomach for paying attention to the stuff that maybe challenges their presumptions but can be brought into the system. Because if you just exclude it from the system, then it will tear the system apart. We talked about this with Buckeye and Euripides a little bit. You've got to find some way of seeing what the artists are telling you and then, incorporating that into your bigger vision of the world. Because of course, if the artists are telling you something true, but they don't really see like the whole picture and how people have to live in order to society, then you have to kind of find some middle ground between that, balance what the artists are saying with your own with firmness about the good traditional values.
A few weeks ago, I covered I want to say it was Yanni covering a black woman who, or at least she shared on her channel, a black woman speaking about the disloyalty of black men, especially black men with money, and she was speaking about the Jeezy situation, right? And I recall saying something along the lines of, these people are hiding behind pop culture instead of dealing with the facts that the majority of black men, even black men that earn over six figures, which is where we pretty much start the line for financial success, the vast majority, 8 out of 10 black men that are married, right? 8 out of 10 of black men that are married that earn over six figures or six figures and above are married to black women. And what these women are doing is not acknowledging that actual fact, but continuously hitting other black women upside the head with imagery, images, and conversations about black entertainers who are not in relationship with black men. And they use that conversation to speak about black men being disloyal to black women. There's a reason why I covered that. Once again, downstream from culture is politics. Downstream from constantly telling black women that black men are disloyal are the politics that black women will advocate for and speak to because of the perception that black men are disloyal. Right? Huh. And we'll pause right here. And Trell says Al Keisha issued a fatwa and is waging jihad against black men. Yeah, no, seriously, yes. Absolutely. And evidenced by even Roland Martin speaking about how many black women were calling in anti, once again, anti my brother's keeper under the Obama administration. If white people didn't know that there was a gender conflict in the black community before, they definitely knew it then. Huh? If white folks didn't know that there was a gender conflict between black men and black women, they definitely knew it with the Stacey Abrams campaign. They definitely knew it with the Gillum campaign. Huh? The Andrew Gillum campaign. Right? They definitely knew with the comment made by Tiffany Cross. They definitely knew with the comments being made by Ebony K. Williams. Huh? If they didn't know before, which they did, they definitely know now. Hmm. downstream from the culture, from the pop culture, from the movies, in the music, in the articles, continuously defecating on black men. You could try to frame it as intellectual as you want. You can hide behind 4 and 5 syllable words all you want. Downstream from black men ain't ish and intellectualizing your misandry are the politics, FD signifier, are the politics, Khadijah, are the politics, Kim Foster, are the politics, Diallo Kenyatta, are the politics, Dr. Jared Ball, are the politics, Geechee, are the politics, Pascal Robert, are the politics, Jason Miles, M. Toussaint, huh? Whether you're black men or black women, one of us has the white man's microphone and the other one doesn't. Pun intended. Huh? Y'all could say what y'all want to say about hip hop and all these B's and H's and tip drill and sliding credit cards down women's backside. You could say what you want to say, but no one was saying anything about waiting to excel. No one was saying anything about no scrubs. No one was saying anything about can you pay my bills. No one was saying anything about how Stella got her groove back and any of that. Huh? Where are all the think pieces about all of the sexism coming from black women all through the 80s and 90s and aughts? Black men are the white supremacists of the black community articles. Oh, but it was written by black men. Yawn. Where are the black women to say black women are the handmaidens of white supremacy in the black community? Oops. Exactly. Four Color Girls. Exactly. Four Color Girls. One of the most depressing movies ever. Everybody lost. Everybody losing. All the women losing. All the men in that movie are horrible. Absolutely horrible, atrocious. No, Toy, you can't have the mic. The mic's on fire right now. It's gonna burn your hand. Huh. And so downstream from all of this culture that no one's saying anything about, Meg this stuff first. Cardi B over here telling you how she essentially drugged dudes and had LGBTQ people fondle and do things with them. No one said anything. Where are you intellectuals? Nowhere. You academics, nowhere to be found. Rick Ross puts one song, one lyric, one line in a song, kind of making fun of the Bill Cosby situation. One line in a song. Y'all buried him for it. Or at least you tried to. Cardi B didn't even say anything in the song. She straight up said she did it. She didn't try to rhyme anything with anything. She wasn't trying to be. She said she did it. Nothing. Cardi B, not just Cardi B. Meg Thee Stallion pretty much telling black men, "Hey, we don't really need y'all for nothing. Not a nothing. We might want y'all there, but we don't really need you." Right? Nothing. Right? We have all these think pieces speaking about Lizzo and her weight and how, the reason why we're not deeming her attractive is because of her weight and why can't she be scantily clad and what the real problem is y'all are body shaming and fat shaming, et cetera, et cetera. Then y'all find out that, yeah, Lizzo's a whole a-hole, a whole white business shark. She essentially moving like a white executive, painted black woman. Where are all the think pieces? Huh? Where are all the news articles written by black women? Uh-oh. Where are the video essays? There's a couple. There's a couple. There's a couple. Huh? Downstream from all of the culture, the pop culture, the music, the movies, the sayings, right? The witticisms, downstream from all of that is the politics that allow for the Brookings Institute research that shows that 70% of our black boys that are born to upper middle class situations and above come right back down to working class. But of course, because we're not advocating for them, and we assume that it's a character flaw, that's why their sisters are able to maintain that position, but they're not. Downstream from black men ain't ish are black women joking and bragging about and thinking it's funny. Well, black men are costing the US $50 billion. That's because, y'all are losers and did. Huh. Where's black intelligentsia? Where are black academics? Nowhere to be found. Right? Nowhere to be found. Because you either agree or you're too afraid and too cowardly. That rhymes. Right? And we'll pause right here and play this again.
That's an interesting question because in one sense, the obvious answer is yes. The culture determines the politics. And I think that's the big equation. And that's one of the things that evangelical Christians had better think through very carefully, because I think one of the things that must have been learned from the 80s and the 90s is that if the culture moves in one direction and the politics moves in a different direction, the culture will overwhelm the politics. And culture will trump the politics. The culture produces the politics eventually. But I don't want to leave that the last thing said, because I think in an Augustinian worldview or in a biblical worldview, we got to understand that politics really is important, and politics does affect the culture. So we actually don't know an apolitical culture. So the culture that will determine the politics has itself been shaped in some sense by politics, at least as part of what has brought that culture into being. So I think the big answer is, of course, culture always determines the politics. The politics is indeed always downstream from the culture, but that culture itself has been at least affected and influenced, even shaped by political issues, personages, policies, and events. And you can't take those out of the equation either.
So yes, the politics does have somewhat of a pull on the culture, but it's really the culture that shapes the politics. Once again, it's really the culture that shapes the politics. One more, Ginzy. Once again, it's the culture that shapes the politics. You can't avoid the culture. You can't think you're above the culture. Right? Right? And what's happening is there's a whole lot of scholars and intellectuals in the black community that when it comes time, like I said to FD, when it comes time to critique black women and what they're saying and what they're advocating for, and all of a sudden we start doing the both and isn't that we can pathologize black men in a vacuum, but when it comes time to critiquing, I didn't even say pathologizing black women, I said critiquing black women, all of a sudden it's a both and thing. Pathologize black men in a vacuum, Critiquing black women? Nope, not in a vacuum. Isn't that all of us? Isn't that like what black people are doing? Isn't that black men and black women? Huh? Very interesting how the left gets to patriarchy. Because what you're saying is black men are truly responsible for black women, but not really. Right? Because everything black women do is as a response to something black men have said or done. It's a reaction or response to something that black men have said or done. But black men always initiate the negativity or are always the greater cause of the negativity. And that's not sexist, right? That's not misandrist, right? The framing. You got to address the culture. You have to address the culture. You have to address the culture. One more, Ginzy. You have to address the culture. You have Ashley Acuna under her breath essentially calling black men terrorists. Right? Because it's not being addressed. You have women like Uchechi every other episode going at black men. You take one good look at her, you understand why, but nobody could say it. No one could say it. We all got to duck and dodge and pretend like the obvious isn't the obvious. Right? Women like Kim Foster intellectualizing their misandry, weaponizing their Harvard degree against black men, weaponizing their class position against black men, primarily working class and working poor and lower middle class black men. You know, the majority of black men. Right? You write better you every other episode. You write better you, and better you says every other episode you being too kind. Z, you're right. It wasn't every other episode. Every episode, Uchechi weaponizing her misandry against black men. For those of you that never watched The Grapevine, they deleted everything. You might be able to find some clips somewhere of someone reviewing some of the things they were saying. But it was really, doing numbers 2014, 2015, right? What, 2013, 14, maybe 15, 16, maybe 17-ish. But yeah, they had some interesting conversations, but it always came back down to black men ain't ish. It didn't matter what the subject matter was. We could have been talking about Jupiter, right? And the reason why I cover it, I always say why I cover these people. Because downstream from the Uchechis and the Ashley Acunas and all the guests that they bought on, right? Downstream from that, downstream from Black Talk, yeah, that's in Britain, but downstream from that, right? Downstream from all of this insanity, downstream from Kim Foster and her talk, downstream from Khadijah and her talk. Khadijah's not as bad as Kim Foster, right? Yeah, Mouse was interesting on there. Mouse was interesting, right? But downstream from all of that are the politics, right? You don't get a Simone Sanders saying who asks black men for their unsolicited opinions without the culture, without her feeling comfortable saying that. You get Simone Sanders saying that because it's okay to say that about black men. You imagine? You imagine a campaign staffer, a black heterosexual man, even an LGBTQ. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. Technical difficulties. Let's go back. You imagine a black man, whether straight or gay, even a gay black man couldn't get away with that. You imagine a black man saying about black women who asked, there we go, got to get the K, black women for their unsolicited opinions. You imagine? Would that person even see the end of the day? Would they still be employed and then go on to work for the vice president afterward? You imagine? Who asked black women for their unsolicited opinion? You imagine? But once again, downstream from the culture that not only allows but encourages Simone Sanders to speak like that about black men, right? Downstream from that is Simone Sanders becoming, right, Kamala Harris's whatever the hell. That's funny, Sam Norton. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. And Sam Norton says John Lennon couldn't imagine. The Beatles couldn't imagine, right? Because black women's misandry is sanctioned by the state and by the black community. Now, you, black man, you say one word, especially if you're a black man of note, if you're a black politician or a black entertainer, a black athlete, a black male athlete, you even step a big toe out of the box. You say something that can even be slightly misinterpreted as misogyny. That's your ass. Especially if that misogyny is directed specifically to black women. Oh, but black women can openly say who asked black men for their unsolicited opinion. Black women can literally get on and say the reason why about 20% of black men look like they're going to vote for Donald Trump if he makes it to the primary, right, or the general election. Sorry, if he makes it into the general election, the black men that are going to vote for Trump, they're voting for Trump because they're jealous of black women and black women's progress. And black women's progress is seen as being an effect of white racist Democrats pushing black women. Well, where's the lie? Anyway, huh. But Ebony K. Williams can say that and say that so blatantly because we have a culture in the black community that allows and actually encourages black women to say the most misandrous things about black men and get a clap for it and get a standing ovation for it. Right? Facts. Because they're telling the truth. I said clap. That's not what they do anymore, right? They do the snaps like we in a poetry lounge. Right? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Let's play. We're gonna keep on playing these clips for all the people that keep on coming in and out, and some of the newcomers. We're playing this to pin down and stress how politics is downstream from culture, and that we've had a whole lot of black academics, namely black male academics, that have been in spaces and have watched and heard black women say the most misandrous things about black men and said nothing about it. And they have watched all of the movies and the music and the news articles speaking absolutely insane about black men, Roots articles, and they've said nothing. Actually, some of those black men have actually encouraged it, right? So let's play this one more again.
The truth, if you ignore the truth that exists, even in somewhat distasteful forms, in lower class art and pop art, then the art will win and your politics will lose. Andrew Breitbart understood this when he said that politics is downstream from culture. Actually, Shelley said something quite similar. He said the poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Plato in the Laws talks about a theatrocracy, which is what happens when people make their decisions based on what they see in the theater, what they can applaud at, and what people use to pander to them. You may not like it, but art is a tremendously powerful tool. It is more powerful than political argument and reasoned argument for insinuating itself into the heart of people. And so the job of critics and the job of people who care about good politics and about preserving the republic have to have a strong stomach for paying attention to the stuff that maybe challenges their presumptions but can be brought into the system. Because if you just exclude it from the system, then it will tear the system apart. We talked about this with Buckeye and Euripides. You've got to find some way of seeing what the artists are telling you and then, incorporating that into your bigger vision of the world. Because of course, if the artists are telling you something true, but they don't really see like the whole picture and how people have to live in order to society, then you have to kind of find some middle ground and then balance what the artists are saying with your own with firmness about the good traditional values.
You can't ignore it. You can't ignore the culture. And I would also levy that to FD Signifier. You keep on playing down divestment rhetoric, and the best we got from him in the conversation I had with him a couple nights ago was, okay, I'll say that we've allowed some of this. Essentially, he was saying we've allowed some of this to go unchecked, maybe a little bit too much. No, not a little bit. It's not a little bit. That's why I brought up Simone Sanders. That's why I brought up Tiffany Cross. That's why I brought up Ebony K. Williams. Right? And that's more on the political side. I don't even want to start speaking about black women speaking negatively about black men in relationships and intimacy, like Lonnie Love, right? Etc. Right? A whole lot of women, black women, encouraged to speak foul about black men. And I watch as black male intellectuals hide out in academia and say nothing. Mark Lamont Hill is on the griot with Ebony K. Williams. He says nothing. All of these intellectuals speaking about patriarchy and anti-patriarchy, and we need to be anti, and these hierarchies of oppression. And I watch Diallo and Dr. Jared Ball say nothing. Right? Diallo watches as black women excuse Keke Palmer's bad behavior. And he feels a certain way about what they're saying. Yeah, Kiki's the famous one. She's the one with the money. So she get to do what she want to do. And he feels a certain way about it. And he makes a slight mention of it and he lets it go. Because you know why? It's exactly what FD Signifier said. I'm a black man. I'm not in a position to say anything. Okay, fine. Where are the black women to say anything? Oh, wait, they don't exist. What do you have? Julesy? What do you have? Nappy at home, but she ain't really saying nothing. Teen War, she ain't really saying anything. Kim Foster, stop it. Khadijah, nope. Who? Fab Socialism, nope. Spade Man, exactly. He admitted he's not going to do it. Fine. Where are the black women too? Because wait a minute, black men are here in the black manosphere trying to get other black men together. Foreign man in a foreign land is mocking us and making fun of us. FD signifier comes in and tries to drop his peen on the table on us. Conscious Lee is always jabbing. Dr. Jed Ball and Diallo Kenyatta stay jabbing. Right? Everybody, well, y'all don't understand. It's really capitalism. Okay, fine. Fine. Okay. Anybody talking to the ladies though? Nope. The men ain't saying nothing to the ladies. The women ain't saying nothing to the ladies. Right? Huh. And so their misandry is just allowed to run free and fast. What about the boys? What boys? Wait, we care about black boys all of a sudden? Right? You know we care about black boys? First of all, never. When they're no longer here or they don't earn enough to pay for our daughters as adults. We actually don't care about we care about the black boys. You know what? Let me stop playing. We care about black boys when they're still cute before the age of like 5, right? When they're still cute, right? We care about black boys. Then we pretend to care about black men when it's time for our daughters to get married and they can't find them a black husband worth a damn. So they say. We feign concern now that it's time for our daughters to get married. Now that our daughter is 32, 35, now she's coming home with a Latino or a white dude. Cheryl said 2.5 at best. He said 5 years old. Nah, 2.5 at best. 2.5 years old at best. Right? We feign like we care about black men. Now that our daughter just walked in the door with a white dude, and then we start speaking about how these black men weren't on her level, or they were checking for the hood sister, or they weren't, as adults. We do not care about black boys and men. And downstream from a culture that actively attacks and degrades black boys and men are politics that undergird that. And that's not up for debate. And that's not and somebody somewhere, some black intellectual is going to come up on this eventually and try to do the both and thing. There is no both and, not on this. Black men are not encouraged to intellectualize their misogyny and their quote unquote colorism and their sexism and et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely not. Where are all the black men that sound like Tiffany Cross? Michael's still over here telling you, if you want to know black men's opinion on politics, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, essentially go ask his wife. You want to know which direction he's going to vote? Go ask his wife. Michael Steele said that. I'm paraphrasing. Something along those lines. Or his wife is going to tell him who to vote for. Your former Republican chairman said that. Show me. Woof, find it. Black women said, you want to know what black women think? Go ask black men. Because black men dictate to black women who they going to vote for. Find it. Find me the clip of black men sounding like Ebony K. Williams when it comes to black women's voting patterns. Who has it? What Roland Martin gonna say something like that? Huh? Mark Lamont Hill going to say something like that? Who's gonna say it? Huh? Al Sharpton going to say something like that? Who's going to say it? When Don Lemon's LGBTQ, was he going to say something like that when he was on CNN? Who? Which one of these men have the gumption to say, yeah, black women vote Democrat because, they're welfare queens? Huh? Which black man has the gumption? Y'all didn't even want to say anything about black women getting in the way of my brother's keeper. And we're expecting you to say something all the way as far as what Ebony K. Williams is saying? Where is the black male politician or that works for a politician, right? To say something as outlandish as what Simone Sanders said. Where is that? Where does that guy exist? Tim Scott is a whole black man in the Republican Party as a senator. A whole black male senator. He would never. Black Republican male senator. He would never. Who asks black women for their unsolicited opinions? Who would say it? Larry Elder wouldn't even say something like that. Alan West wouldn't say something like that. Jesse Lee, maybe Jesse Lee Pearson. Maybe, possibly, probably not. Who? Michael Steele? Hell no. What's the one that passed? He's right there too. His name is right there from COVID. Right there. God damn. I forgot this brother's name. Y'all know who I'm speaking about. He wouldn't have said it. Right? Who would say it? But yet Simone Sanders gets to say that and no one says anything. Where's the black male academic? Where's the black female academic to say, whoa, 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 sister, whoa, 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 slow your roll. Right? Where is it? Right? So, you know, I want us to really think about why we don't see this way. Downstream from anti-black male misandrous culture is the politics that degrades black men and that upholds degrading black men that black women participate in and that other black men either participate in or are negligent because they say nothing about it. At best, they are quiet, and at worst, they assist in the degradation. Herman King, Herman Cain, Cain, Herman Cain. It's Herman Cain. It's Herman Cain. Yes, Herman Cain. Yes, yeah, that's who I was speaking about. Yeah, right. Huh. So let's play this one more again. We got to play these clips one more again, and then we'll close out in a little bit.
Or the truth, if you ignore the truth that exists, even in somewhat distasteful forms in lower class art and pop art, then the art will win and your politics will lose. Andrew Breitbart understood this when he said that politics is downstream from culture. Actually, Shelley said something quite similar. He said the poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Plato in the Laws talks about a theatrocracy, which is what happens when people make their decisions based on what they see in the theater and what they can applaud at and what people use to pander to them. You may not like it, but art is a tremendously powerful tool. It is more powerful than political argument and reasoned argument for insinuating itself into the heart of people. And so the job of critics and the job of people who care about good politics and about preserving the republic have to have a strong stomach for paying attention to the stuff that maybe challenges their presumptions but can be brought into the system. Because if you're just excluded from the system, then it will tear the system apart. We talked about this with Baka and Euripides a little bit. You've got to find some way of seeing what the artists are doing. And then
Yeah, my bad, y'all. Y'all already know. Yeah, Mr. Z is still here. Y'all don't put it in the comments. Y'all already know. Anyway, so let's play that clip one more again. Let's see. Give me 1 second, y'all. We'll play that clip one more again, and then we will play the other one, and we'll be on our way. Y'all should still. Y'all should. Can you guys hear me now? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, y'all should hear me now. I'm still here. I'm still here. Yeah, y'all already know. Don't say it in the comments. But yeah. Okay, so we'll play this clip and we will give our commentary, and then we will let me get a one in the chat if y'all can hear me. I'm not sure. But yeah. So let's finish this, or let's restart it. Better yet. Here we go. Z still here, y'all.
Or the truth, if you ignore the truth that exists, even in somewhat distasteful forms in lower class art and pop art, then the art will win and your politics will lose. Andrew Breitbart understood this when he said that politics is downstream from culture. Actually, Shelley said something quite similar. He said the poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Plato in the Laws talks about a theatrocracy, which is what happens when people make their decisions based on what they see in the theater and what they can applaud at and what people use to pander to them. You may not like it, but art is a tremendously powerful tool. It is more powerful than political argument and reasoned argument for insinuating itself into the heart of people. And so the job of critics and the job of people who care about good politics and about preserving the republic have to have a strong stomach for paying attention to the stuff that maybe challenges their presumptions but can be brought into the system. Because if you're just excluded from the system, then it will tear the system apart. We talked about this with Baka and Euripides a little bit. You've got to find some way of seeing what the artists are telling you and then incorporating that into your bigger vision of the world. Because of course, if the artists are telling you something true, but they don't really see like the whole picture and how people have to live in an art society, then you have to kind of find some middle ground between that, balance what the artists are saying
Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, in other words, your your politics do not trump the culture. If it's a war between your politics and the culture is going to win. The culture is going to win. Did you hear that, FD? And I think FD has an understanding of it. That's why he's creating some of these think pieces and these videos and these video essays and but y'all are really not what are y'all saying? Especially after decades of black men ain't ish media. Decades of black men ain't ish culture and pop culture. And you think you're putting out these think pieces that, like I said to FD Signifier, excuse me, check your comment section. You know, check your comment section. Your own comment section where a whole lot of people cop and please. Black women and non-black women cop and please about the white peen. Check Julesie's comment section for no black women aren't encouraged to marry down. Check it. Right? Huh. From Africa I came said FD looking at his bank account with his fingers in his ears right now. Hysterical. Probably right. Probably right. Hysterical. Right? So yeah. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. The culture trumps your politics. And to be frank, y'all let way too much of black men ain't ish culture slip by. And actually, your insistence on what black men saying being tied to quote unquote white patriarchy and black men aspiring for white patriarchy, actually, what you do in a backwards way is encourage the women and the other men, primarily LGBTQ black men, to continue with the effery and just couch their criticism, really misandrous rhetoric, behind calling out that aspiration of black men to be white patriarchs. That's all you've done is give them the language to couch their misandry as intellectual critique of black men, when once again it's just misandry, it's just black male misandry, right? Right? So no, this cannot stand. Y'all got to say something eventually. Eventually, like today, yesterday. How much of this is just gonna slide? Right? And we'll play this.
That's an interesting question because, in one sense, the obvious answer is yes. The culture determines the politics. I think that's the big equation, and that's one of the things that evangelical Christians had better think through very carefully because I think one of the things that must have been learned from the 80s and the 90s is that if the culture moves in one direction and the politics moves in a different direction, the culture will overwhelm the politics. And culture will trump the politics. The culture produces the politics eventually. But I don't want to leave that the last thing said, because I think in an Augustinian worldview or in a biblical worldview, we got to understand that politics really is important, and politics does affect the culture. So we actually don't know an apolitical culture. So the culture that will determine the politics has itself been shaped in some sense by politics, at least as part of what has brought that culture into being. So I think the big answer is, of course, culture always determines the politics. The politics is indeed always downstream from the culture, but that culture itself has been at least affected and influenced, even shaped by political issues, personages, policies, and events, and you can't take those out of the equation either.
The culture eventually produces the politics. Y'all heard right? The culture eventually produces the politics. Now what? Hmm? Just saying, right? So, yeah, there's no reason for me to belabor the point too much more. We're about to pull up on an hour and a half. This was just my little, off the cuff, random think piece about what me and FD Signifier were speaking about, and what I reviewed a few weeks ago with and I'll link it in the description box. Um, Reviewing kind of how Yanni, Real Talk with Yanni, Chrissy, Paris Milan, all of these Tanya TKO, etc., etc. All of these different content creators um, use pop culture, which moves faster and hits harder, quite frankly, using the pop culture to dictate and to move and maneuver black women a particular way when it comes to their advocacy or lack thereof for black men and boys, right? And the feeling that many black women and girls have towards black men and boys because of what they're seeing coming from these content creators being more important than what FD Signifier and his ilk are doing over there while they play patty cake with these misandrous ass black women. And they tell us, don't worry about it, it's not that serious. Actually, what Chrissy's doing over there, even though she has what, 1/3 your subscribers, is far more impactful than what you saying. Because first of all, you ain't really going at them. You're not really critiquing them. You're waiting for other black women to do it, and they're not gonna do it. And so you just sacrifice the black boys and men under your respectability politics. Your left-leaning respectability. I thought the left was actually kind of against respectability politics, but apparently not. Apparently not. Right? Their culture warring will override your advocacy. It's that simple, right? Their culture warring will override your advocacy because they're hitting black women in the feels, right? Waiting to excel anyone, right? Soul food anyone. That soundtrack. Oh my God, the soundtrack. Train tracks, train tracks, train tracks. The soundtrack to Waiting to Excel. Masterful. The soundtrack to Soul Food. Right? Huh. And what those women watch in movies like that, and how they feel when they're listening to Summer Walker, and how they feel when they're listening to SZA, right? And how they feel because of music like that trumps everything you saying over there. As exhibited by your own comment section, FD Signifier. As exhibited by Jules's comment section. Whenever she say, by the way, black men ain't the worst thing to ever happen on planet Earth. Because most of y'all playing patty cake. The black men are definitely playing patty cake. And even if I said I understood, okay, fine, you're a straight black man. You don't think it's your place to tell black women that they full of crap and they being delusional. Fine. Where are the black women to say it? Huh? Julesy by herself? Right? Where is it? Huh? Wow. Exactly. Better you. Respectability for thee, not for me. Exactly. And Lion says, you making waves, Z. Your issue is hidden from me. Bruh, I can make a whole different video about, my subscriber base and, you know, um, the algorithm and Z not obviously not being a friend of YouTube, but I guess because I haven't violated any rules, I'm still here. But clearly, they ain't fans of Z, right? I could make a whole live stream about that. So, yeah, we understand what we're doing here and what we're presenting, and of course, we're not going to do numbers because we're not super incendiary on one end, and then on the other end, we're not playing patty cake with the ladies and their sexism, and we're the everyman, right? We are the proletariat. We are the everyman. We are the plebes, and we own it, right? Compassion, I gotta make the phone call. You're right. And Compassion says, if Z let me manage his shorts, we could break through. You know what? Compassion is right. Compassion is right. Compassion is right. Okay, so before Z starts complaining, right? We gotta do some things first, right? We can't complain before we actually try everything, right? So yes, compassion is right. Compassion is right. All right. So that's all I wanted to present to y'all today. Um, yeah, the sexism directed towards black men from some LGBTQ black folks, from some black women, that's oftentimes not only just intellectualized, not just the intellectualized misandry, but the misandry that's put in pop culture trumps the politics that some black people advocate for that would maybe be beneficial for black men because the culture is just so much more overwhelming. Better you said plebes. Come on, Z, I want to be a kept man of leisure. Oh, funny. With your feet up, playing Madden, right? All you got to do to keep your relationship is, some cunnilingus and make sure you got a gym body. Have the food ready when she come inside, when she come to the table, right? When she come in, not come to the table. When she gets home, right? Pick the kids up from school, drop them off to practice, right? Have your tongue game on point, and you too can be a kept man of leisure, right? But on that note, everyone, let's end it here. We're a little over an hour and a half, and you know, like, share, subscribe, hit the thank you button for the replay squad. And thank y'all for listening in this morning. And yeah, like I said, this is what it is, right? This is what it is. We we actually have to push back on the culture, the pop culture, right? That pushes misandry, the bigger long characters, right? Because you get Simone Sanders from Waiting to Excel, right? That's how you get that. You get Tiffany Cross from A Color Purple. That's how that happens, right? You get an Ebony K. Williams from How Stella Got Her Groove Back, from Something New. That's how you get that, right? And I'll truly pause right there. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content. Dr. Thunder should be streaming right now. Roger's going to be streaming in a little bit. Um, And y'all go check out other Manosphere content, other Black Manosphere content, sorry, and other non-Manosphere content. Um, yeah, for the love of God. That's how I come to you guys with this. Obviously, I take things that have nothing to do with the Black Manosphere and incorporate them so that we can have a larger conversation about what we're living and what we're witnessing, and kind of critique these things in a way that's beneficial for us, so we can actually see some change and actually see our sons prosper in the future instead of being in this loop, right? That's why I bring up the Brookings Institute. 70% of Black boys born in upper middle class situations and above fall back down. There's a reason for that, right? The politics isn't there to keep them in those positions or actually have them rise higher, right? So on that note, we would truly pause right there. Y'all have a great, great, great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out. All right, everyone.